Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this session is meant for class 11th biology students, and this is for 29th January 2021. And in this session we are going to revise the chapter in the form of test paper 2, and in this session we are going to do the revision of chapter photosynthesis in higher plants. So basically we are dealing with questions to begin with, then we go for the answers, and before you jump to the answer session, you first answer yourself and compare your answers with the answers that I am providing. Question 1. Why photosynthesis is important? Question 2. Define photosynthesis. 3. What is the site for photosynthesis in Openshia? 4. Differentiate between respiration and photorespiration. 5th. Explain the role of water in photosynthesis. 6th. What is the law of limiting factor? 7. What is the advantage of having more than one pigment molecule in a photocenter? 8. Why are C4 plants preferred in the tropical region? And 9. Briefly explain the chemoismatic hypothesis. So take a paper, start writing the answers, and once you finish your answers in say 30 to 40 minutes, then come to the answers. In this answers, first one, A, primary source of all food on earth. Second, oxygen is released by green plants into the atmosphere as expected because it is CO2 plus H2O, giving rise to starch formation. Along with starch formation, water and of course oxygen is released into the atmosphere. Next, second, definition of photosynthesis is an anabolic, endorganic as well as oxidation reduction process in which green plants manufacture food by raw materials in sunlight. Third one is Openshia's. Answer should be STEM. Question 4, respiration and photorespiration. It occurs in all plants, C3 as well as C4 plants. Photorespiration occurs only in C3 plants. Respiration, glucose is the substrate of this reaction because we always say respiration is oxidation of glucose. And in this, glycolate is the substrate which is connected into glycine, NH3 and CO2 in peroxisomes. Answer 5, it is a reactant in a light reaction. Water stress causes closure of stomata. It reduces the availability of CO2 and reduces surface area of the leaves. Question number 6. This law states that if a chemical process is affected by more than one factor which is nearest to its minimal value, then the rate will be determined by the factor which is nearest to its minimal value. It is a factor that directly affects the process if its quantity is changed. Now come to 7. Light reaction depends upon the amount of solar energy trapped by the pigment. Energy trapped by a single pigment molecule is not enough to start the initial reaction which may occur in light. Hence, a number of pigment molecules provide protection to the chlorophyll molecule against photooxidation. Question 8. C4 plants utilize 30 ATP to produce one molecule of glucose, favored by tropical region. In these plants, photorespiration is the mechanism not to lose the photosynthetic carbon. In the process of photorespiration, RuBP is catabolized to a 3-carbon atom compound instead of combining with CO2. More than 50% of CO2 fixed by photosynthesis is lost in photorespiration. Photorespiration acts to undo the work of photosynthesis as no energy-rich compound is produced during this process. Thus, C4 plants are better photosynthesizers than C3 plants, and C4 pathway is of adaptive advantage in tropical region, and thus these plants are preferred. Answer 9. Chemoismatic hypothesis explained the mechanism of ATP synthesis in a chloroplast. In photosynthesis, ATP synthesis is linked to development of proton gradient across the membrane. You can see the protons H plus. So there is lumen inside, and outside it's the thylakoid membranes, outside stroma. So in between these two there is the proton gradient that is to be maintained. These are the membranes of thylakoids. The proton accumulation is towards the inside of the membrane. That's why you are able to see here H plus. This is inside the lumen. The process which occur during activation of electrons and their transport to determine the steps that cause proton gradient to develop. ATP synthesis is linked to development of proton. Because of the presence of proton gradient, you can see in the F0 F1 particle, the ADP combines with inorganic phosphate and forms ATP. So this is how the proton gradient, which is maintained in the lumen, will help in the ATP synthesis. So in this way, always large questions, large answers have to be supported with the correct diagram. Next session we will see one more paper. Until then,